Well, I've got a special treat for you today. Today's video, I want to interview a friend of mine who also is in the lawn care business, and I want to talk about how he made the jump from working from somebody else to starting his own business. And then he was doing mowing grass and weed control, and eventually he just kind of moved on into weed control like I'm doing. So we're gonna talk about that in the course of the video. Many of you know that follow the channel know that I have a Graham spray rig on the back of my truck. This video is sponsored by Graham, and we're gonna talk about the Graham spray rig and how that's kind of been a useful piece of equipment for both of us in growing our business. But also want to just give a realistic answer of what it was like to go out on your own in the business from somebody who's been there and done that. I thought that might be a help to somebody who watch the channel regular. So without delay, let me introduce our guest and we will get started with the interview. All right, this is my friend Alex Faulkner. He's actually been on some videos before. I would call Alex a friend of the channel. He has been on a video we did that was called Calibration. If you go Google lawn care, or go on YouTube, search for lawn care life calibration, you'll see Alex come up on there, and we did that together. But Alex, thank you for the time here, and I just wanted to get your thoughts a little bit on what it was like, because to recap your story and you fill in the gaps here. For those watching, let me just tell you that I did these questions. I just told Alex a minute ago what the questions were going to be, because I wanted it to be kind of a natural interview and not a rehearsed answer. But I said, Alex, tell us what it was like, you being a young guy working for the big company in town, or one of the big companies in town, and then you sort of made that jump out on your own. How did that process go? Was that scary for you? And just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I worked for a large company for almost 3 years, and I had some great supervisors and some really good guys down there that were really good teachers and mentors of mine, and they saw the potential in me and really just started to pour into me when I first started down there, and really helped me learn the industry fairly quickly, I feel like. So, and it was where I was working for them was kind of around the Birmingham area, and I live up here about half an hour from the Birmingham area, a little more rural area. So I started getting a lot of questions here around the town and the community that I live in about what I did, and a lot of people began to inquire about those type of services here, and there really was very little amount of, there wasn't very many people here that did that type of work. So I got my certification and decided to make the leap and come out on my own. And yeah, you know, it was scary. It was definitely, you know, a lot of things were uncertain. I was lucky enough when I did leave the large company, I had gotten another job that was it was actually more than what I was making there, but I was able to work, it was a weekend job. So I could work 12-hour shifts on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and then I would be off Tuesday through Friday. So I did that for the first 6 months that I was out on my own, and of course, you know, the weekend job paid the bills, and then what I was able to make, I sort of just put back into the business, and just sort of tried to figure things out, and, you know, sort of understand what things really cost, and, you know, just, you know, the things of just really getting started that you just have to learn. But yes, it was scary, and I was lucky enough, like I said, to have that part-time job, or that full-time job that I could work on the weekends. And I didn't really have a house, I guess. I mean, I wasn't homeless, but we were thankful enough that we had very low overhead, I guess, in our living situation. And at the time, my wife and I didn't have any kids, and she was still in school and working some. So, you know, it was scary, but I just felt like the time was really right whenever I did it, and it was challenging, and it's still challenging today sometimes, but I'm glad I did it. I don't regret it.
So if I remember correctly, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but the company that you worked for seemed like they had one truck that was painted pink, and did you drive the pink truck?
I did drive the pink truck, very reluctantly. The company that I worked for was a big supporter of breast cancer awareness, and all of the trucks actually had the specialized tags that had the little pink ribbon on them, and then they had a couple of trucks that were painted pink, and I drove one of the pink trucks. And of course, when you work in it's predominantly male co-workers, they kind of give you a hard time about it, but people loved it. People loved the pink trucks, and I didn't really like it at first, but the more I drove it around, it just kind of became my thing, I guess.
I saw a pink truck the other day, and they had a flashback. I said, I think that's what Alex used to drive.
Yes, I drove a pink truck, yes.
So, and then when you started doing lawn care, you eventually, when you started on your own, you were mowing yards some and doing the weed control. And how did that go? And how long before you quit mowing grass and you started just spraying?
I think it was about a year, I guess. I did both for about a year. I enjoy mowing. There's definitely not as much profit in it. At least when I did it, I didn't make as much money mowing as I did spraying. But I just did it for that amount of time, just because I'd already kind of did some mowing on the side, and I had an established client base of doing that. Probably about 25, 30 yards that I could knock out in a day or two most of the time. So and that helped early on, just to have some income going. So it was too bad doing both, I guess.
And when you talked about your first year, you were putting money back in the business. Like, when were you able to kind of upgrade your spray setup? And tell me about kind of the rig you have now and what you're using on your truck.
Yeah, so I started with a single tank. It was just a really, really, I don't want to say cheap, because it was fairly good quality, but it didn't cost as much as something like what Graham builds. But it was a 200-gallon tank from Northern Tool. I ordered it online and then just went to the store in Birmingham and picked it up. And it served its purpose. It was a really good starter unit, I think, for what they cost. I used that for probably about a year and a half, 2 years, and upgraded to a 300-gallon tank and used that for about a year, I guess, and then went with Graham. But the Graham is, you talk about it all the time on your channel. The biggest thing with the Graham is the ability to have two products or two mixes, a split tank setup. So mine is 300 gallons and it has a compartment that's 200 and another one that's 100. And that was a big reason why I decided to make the switch with Graham, just because you start getting into different turf types, Bermuda, Zoysia, Centipede, and St. Augustine. It's really, really helpful to have that when you're going across all four warm season turf types, just because you never know, certain neighborhoods, certain areas have all four. So before I had the Graham, I would have to mix up a certain day for centipedes and just have to do all my centipedes in one day. And that really didn't work out well. I was backtracking a lot and doing a lot more driving than was really necessary. So the Graham solved that problem, and I'm able to carry two separate solutions. And it's just, the Grahams are just so well built. You just look at these Grahams, and they are not cheaply made. They use really good fiberglass tanks. Frame is all welded really well, and it's just put together, and it's just a great design, I think. The valves and things are pretty easy to get to, and it's really, you got a couple grease zerks that you got to put some grease in a couple times a month maybe. Other than that, keep your filter, check your filter once a week or so, keep it clean. And I mean, that's just it. I've had mine for I'm trying to think, probably going on 5 years, I guess. I've had mine, and I have only had, that I can remember, I've only had one issue where I had to go back to Graham, and it was an issue with the hose, something about the hose. The original hose that was on here, they had problems with those collapsing, and mine actually did collapse. But it was, one day I told them I'm having this problem. They said, bring it out here the next day. I was there right when they opened early that morning, and they got it in and figured out what it was and put me a new hose on there and took care of it. You know, it was a really easy experience, and they're just a great team to deal with. All those guys really know what they're doing, and they're not a huge operation like you think they would be. You know, it's really not that many people that work for Graham. So, you know, it's felt like really when I bought the Graham that I had became friends with those guys. And it really was almost a very personal experience, I guess, is what I would say.
What about, so sometimes I'll have people and I get people ask me questions about starting in weed control, and I'll tell them, you know, you need to go buy a spray tank, and then, you know, it's not $500 to get a spray tank, so they start flipping out. Oh, man, that costs more than a backpack blower. They start flipping out. And I try to explain to them the difference in investing in a spray tank compared to investing in a zero-turn mower. And I love zero-turn mowers, and they make money. But can you speak to that as far as, like, return on investment of this tank, and you don't have to necessarily give numbers what it costs versus a lawnmower, as far as you kind of mentioned the maintenance involved, but as far as like what it costs and how much money it produces for you?
I mean, I would say for what I paid for my Graham, it paid for itself in safely, I would say, a month, but probably less than that. You know, if you're established and, you know, have a reasonable amount of clients, I would say I got my money back on my Graham really, really, really fast.
Yeah, I tell people that, you know, it's like the maintenance side of it, like you said, a couple grease fittings, but I'm not sharpening blades and doing all that mess, you know, and that's part of mowing. But, you know, it's just you turn the key, it turns on, and you pull the trigger and water comes out.
Yep.
Hey, I don't need to know all the details. Just make the thing work. So Alex, what would you say? Somebody's watching this video, you know, and they're like, oh, I'm ready to go out on my own, whether they've been working for a mowing company or working for another lawn company, or maybe they've had an office job and they just feeling froggy and might get out there. And sometimes they want to just have assurance it's all going to work out. I was like, I can't promise that. I don't know the person, I don't know the market, but maybe there's something you can tell them from your experience, positive or negative. What do they need to be thinking through to help them decide if that's right for them?
I mean, I would say just do a lot of research. Know, you know, what things cost, what Graham spray rigs cost, what Permagreens and Z sprays, and what all, you know, find out what all that costs. Find out what type of fertilizer you're going to use, what products. You know, sort of plan out what maybe a good program would be to get started with. And, you know, I think that's a lot of what it boils down to is just, you know, find out what things cost, find out what people are charging in your area. And, you know, that was a big thing for me is, you know, when I started, you know, you just learn over time how much things cost, and you can just see where the profits really are. And, you know, once you determine that, then that's really where you focus. It's where you want to try to focus your time and your effort.
I appreciate Alex being with us. Hopefully you got some beneficial information from this. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully this has helped you and given you some encouragement watching Alex. Appreciate him being on here. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next video.